What a wonderful, wonderful introduction that was. Would you mind if he came up here and did that again? Thank you so much for inviting me tonight, and congratulations to all of you graduates, your families, your friends, everyone who has supported your travels through your professional and your personal journey. Now I'm going to pose a challenge to you graduates, something I want you to think about carefully, and that is, what kind of traveler have you been? And what kind of traveler could you be, both in your personal journey as well as your professional journey? Are you going to be a tourist with a set destination in mind, who follows a rigid itinerary of places to stop along the way? Or are you going to be an explorer who will be creative, courageous, and look at things that you never imagined could exist to provide enrichment to your lives? When I sat among a similar group back in 1984, when I graduated medical school, no, it wasn't the 19th century. When I sat among a group like you, I envisioned myself as a tourist. I had a set destination in mind. I was going to be a clinician. I'd become an intern, a resident, that was the itinerary, and then I'd hang a shingle, and I'd care for members of my local community. But that's not how it turned out. If I remained a tourist instead of an explorer, I wouldn't be here now in such an esteemed place talking to you. I certainly would never have had the opportunity to lead an organization like Baycrest. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be the vice dean of a medical school, a columnist for a major newspaper, someone who led international trade delegations in health, hosted heads of state, and was on TV with George Clooney, no less. So, how did this all happen? You know, quite frankly, I remember when I first visited Toronto when I was contemplating coming here to be among you, and I did what most people do. I got a guidebook. The guidebook told me that in order to visit and see Toronto, you go to the CN Tower and you go to the top. You go to Kensington Market and St. Lawrence Market. You go to the AGO, you go to the ROM, and there's a couple of restaurants that Zagat recommends that you eat in, and I did all those things. And so I visited Toronto. But I didn't experience Toronto. I visited it. When I came back, I decided to put the guidebook aside, and instead, I wandered through the streets of this city. I saw neighborhoods that captured my imagination, and I went off the planned path. Aromas of restaurants that were not Zagat rated captured my attention, and I ate in them. I experienced Toronto, and I was enriched in the process in a way that I couldn't be as a tourist following a set itinerary from a guidebook. And so I ask you, graduates, will you be a tourist following a set itinerary with a fixed destination in mind? Or like me, will you choose, both because of factors within your control as well as those outside of your control, to become an explorer, to take the risk, to see things, to feel things, to learn about yourself in ways that I know when I was at your stage of my life, I couldn't possibly imagine. Now there's another thing I want to say to you, and it's this. Don't miss the opportunity to seize every moment when you've had a success to enjoy it, to internalize it, to make it a part of yourself. It's important to do that because as your journey goes on, you'll need fuel in your tank, and you'll need the highest octane fuel you can summon. So when those opportunities arise to truly appreciate your successes, don't miss those opportunities. But there's a warning. Make sure that what you view as a success is truly your own definition of what success is, and not somebody else's. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out, and I still work on it. You can accumulate all kinds of successes in your life, in your career. But because they're really other people's definitions of success, for some reason, it never feels like you're really filling your tank. You don't feel as gratified and as rich as you should feel by these successes. And that's because these successes were never really yours. They were somebody else's. So make sure that when you identify and celebrate one of your successes, it's truly yours, and it helps to support that you're leading a meaningful life. Final thing I wish to say, and if I have time, I will tell you about the George Clooney story on TV. Final thing I wish to say is that perhaps several of you, I don't know, like me, also have had to confront episodes where we stumbled a bit, where obstacles came in our path, where there were setbacks, perceived failures. Make no mistake about it, folks. I've had my share of professional failures, the jobs I applied for that I didn't get, the patients that I thought I could help who I didn't, the students who weren't quite as enraptured with the lecture as I anticipated they would be. I've had those failures, I've had those setbacks, and I've had them on the personal side. The day I graduated medical school, my young wife was diagnosed with cancer. It was a very serious thing. My family was there, but they weren't there to celebrate my graduation. They were there to sit a vigil, for my wife. So I've had those setbacks, you'll have those. That's not what's important. What's important is what we do after the setback. It's how we recover. In golf, great golfers know that they're not going to hit the ball straight down the fairway every time, no matter how hard they work, no matter how hard they practice, no matter how dedicated they are to their sport. They know that times are going to happen when they hit the ball into the woods, and they have to go search for the ball, and then they find it. What's important is what they do next. In golf, that's called the recovery shot. Well, in life, I think the true measure that helps us understand what we're really about, what helps us to appreciate what gives us gratification, which really helps us to reflect upon where we can make a difference, is not so much the setbacks that happen, is not so much the successes that we achieve, but it's how we recover when life hands us setbacks, whether they're of our own making or somebody else's. Work on your recovery shot. Use those setbacks to learn how to be a better person and how to have more impact in whatever path you choose and whatever kind of traveler you choose to be. I think I have 30 seconds then to tell you the George Clooney story. So I was invited to be on the NBC Today show. I don't know if you're aware of that show. It's in the United States. Just my luck, George Clooney is going to be interviewed right before me on this show. So they take me into the makeup room to get me ready for this TV appearance. I go into the room, and sitting next to me in the chair is George Clooney. And his makeup artist is working on him, getting him ready for his appearance. And my hapless makeup artist is working on me. At some moment, we're both looking in the mirror, me and George, and I look at him, and I say to the makeup artist, "Can you make me look like him?" And so she and the other makeup artist, with very serious expressions, start to walk all around me. And they're looking at me from every conceivable direction, and they're holding up mirrors. Once they were done making their appraisal, my makeup artist looked at me, and she said, "You want to know if we can make you look like him?" I said, "Yes." She said, "No." So I've resigned myself on my own journey that I'm not going to look like George Clooney. I'm never going to be George Clooney. I'm just going to be Bill Reichman. And I've got to find a way to feel good about that and to make the most of what life has offered me. I've shed the mantle of being merely a tourist, and I encourage you graduates to think in the same way. So do me a favor. Do all of your colleagues and your families and friends a favor. Go out into the world on this next phase of your journey. Give us everything that you've got in terms of your beauty and your talent, and you will have lived a more meaningful life as a result, and you have made our lives more meaningful as a result. Thank you.